Hi guys, and welcome to CRK TV. We're here for another episode of On the Bench. Today I'm joined by two special guests. A regular on the show, Tommy from Fine Art Printing by Tommy. Tommy, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And also our special guest today is Melanie J. Melanie is a mixed media artist and children's book author and illustrator. Melanie, welcome.
Thank you.
Melanie, how did you come across Tommy and how did you come across Ilford Paper?
We've had quite a long relationship working together now, actually.
Mm-hmm. You had your scans done, and we worked on the colours together.
I just remember the process, though, and I obviously I was new to it, but your eye for detail and just the colour matching and the way you worked with me very closely to get it exactly.
Yeah.
You know, the way it needed to be, even more so than my own eye, really. You were saying, no, I think that's still slightly off. I was first brought on to you, though, by some incredible photographers that I was working with at the time that work with Ilford. Yeah. So they brought me into this and introduced me to you. That's how I first came on board.
Yeah, it became a beautiful relationship.
Nice to hear it. So, Tommy, I noticed that your print lab, Fine Art Printing by Tommy, we're not just seeing traditional photographs, but we're also seeing reproduction of fine art media work. So what is involved in the digitization and how does it get translated to digital printing?
You can make an analog into a digital format in many different ways, right? There's the right way and then the okay way. So a lot of people actually would come up with an iPhone shot, and that's the quality of that obviously is not really that great. The right way would be doing a flatbed scan, right? So you've got a massive table with lights, directional lights on the side, and you've got a camera. Effectively, it's a camera overhead, and it scans in strips. It does the stitching in real time, right? So you get really fantastic resolution. So you've got your file, and then you've got to work on the colors to make them match the original.
Melanie, were you familiar with this process before you came across Tommy?
Well, before I came across him, I'd had the digital scans done on the flatbed scanner. So, yes, but very new to it, and just so fascinating because my work is extremely layered. It's got multiple layers in it. And to see a print blowing up and see, like I've had prints in various places that people think are originals because of the way it's printed. It's just incredible quality.
Yeah, I was just going to show a sample here of an original piece that was scanned, and there's a level of detail that you get from a proper scanner. So this piece here originally was 900 by 1200 millimeters, and scanning it properly, when you blow it up to something even bigger, double the size of the original, you're still able to see all the details. There's a certain beauty about it.
You can see the brush strokes. It's
were
just amazing.
you surprised by some of the details that were picked up when the artwork was enlarged to this degree?
Yeah, well, that's little pieces of paper, like there's layers of paper in my work, and that's just the edges of the paper. So every tiny little brushstroke, where I've pressed my finger, every little mark I've made with a pen, it's and pencil and etc. And even the metal and the wood, because it's multi-layered, you can see all the textures.
I'm also interested in the materials that we've touched on this briefly. Firstly, Melanie, what materials are you using to create this multi-layered artwork? And then, Tommy, what paper are you choosing? And do the materials affect the paper choice and vice versa?
Yeah.
Multiple mediums, so it depends on the piece. I generally start on a really large piece of paper, and I do a pen and ink sketch, cover it with glue, flip it over onto a marine ply wood, pull it back with steel wool, and then start adding all the mixed media. So I've got shellac, I've got metal, I've got wood, I've got that one's got Conti's crystals in it. I've got, doilies in the outfits. I've got so many. That one's even got Coke can bits in the little needles. So there's just so many. Depends on the piece. There's a piece I've got hundreds of buttons on. It just depends on what the piece needs.
Coke
is what
cans,
I use.
That's so random.
I know. I am a little bit random.
How did you come up with the Coke cans?
I don't know how my brain works.
Creative.
It just happens.
It's all about creativity.
And then tell me, how do you choose the paper that the digitized version gets reproduced on?
Mel chose canvas to start with. I think it's usually a pretty wise choice for reproductions of paintings. But not everyone wants canvas in their household. So then the option for this one was the Ilford textured cotton rag. It's a matte paper. It works beautifully with colors and has a really fine texture that adds a little bit of character to the print.
And each cotton rag paper is slightly unique or slightly different?
Yeah, they all have their own characteristics, that's for sure. I mean, you do have like smooth cotton rags, but for reproductions, I find it becomes a little bit flat. Like a smooth cotton rag would be better for photography. That's a certain texture coming through on reproductions of paintings, for sure.
And I love how it sits on there. Sorry.
No, go for it.
I love how it sits on there. The colours are so radiant, and it just lets in my opinion, it lets the piece speak.
I always recommend any artist who do paintings. I always recommend them to digitize the works before they sell them. That gives them more options. They can sell prints later on. They can do exhibitions. They can do a lot with it.
Well, did you always envision digitizing and reproducing your artwork? Was that always the starting point, or were you just going to sell individual pieces to begin with?
I've been painting my whole life, so there's so many paintings I wish I had, but I didn't. So no, this is, I guess, off recent times, but I've probably got, I don't know, a good 30 pieces on my sleeve that I've had digitized that are there.
Is it something you would advise artists to digitize their work, or?
Absolutely. Well, it gives you, like, the thing about a painting is once it's sold, it's gone. And there are so many paintings that are just gone for me. And as you said, the iPhone photos, they're not the same.
Yeah.
So having that, first of all, is beautiful, but then it gives you another stream of revenue for an artist, which I think is extremely important. It's passive income. And it's just a way of keeping that alive. And also in exhibitions, a lot of the time these days, they actually really like to have some prints as well as the originals. So that gives you the opportunity to dig back into your folio and put some older pieces in with the new.
So talking about your artwork more specifically, you've got a reoccurring character in a lot of the pieces that we're looking at today. Maybe, Melanie, you can walk us through that character and the meaning of her, and also some of the materials used in the different pieces we have here.
Sure. I use the same character, as you said, as the protagonist to tell stories through. Most of them are about some form of complex emotion that I want to express, but also allow other people to process more. So they do always have a deeper meaning, but I also want them to be fun and quirky. And on the top level, it's fun and quirky, and then if you want to dig, there's something deeper in there. I would prefer other people to find what they want to in the piece.
Open to interpretation.
Open to interpretation.
And
yeah.
do you have a name for the protagonist, or it's?
Well, she is me, but she isn't me.
I see.
And that gives her room to grow and change, and as she pleases as well as I please. I talk to her like she's a person. It's quite strange, but I like that. So a lot of people do think that she is me, and then it ties it into a box a little bit. So I like to keep it a bit more free.
Yeah, nice. And this the Alice in Wonderland inspired one at the end there. Yeah. What sort of materials were used in that production?
So the I'm not sure if you call that an axe, but in Tweedledee and Tweedledum's hands, that's got metal sheeting in there that I've beaten to look really worn and sanded back a bit. And then in the handle, it's wood. In the clock section, there's wood and metal as well. There's multi-layers in the background. That's just layer upon layer upon layer of, paper and shellac and paint, and then sanded back and then start again, and just to get the real texture there. So I just play. I just keep on going and layering until she's there.
And Tommy, are you always using the same paper to print when you're reproducing Melanie's work? And also, how much input typically does the artist have in the paper that you choose?
Oh, yeah, the artist definitely chooses the paper. I can only guide and, give my recommendations on what's going to work best, but the artist has the final say. Yeah, it's their work, so...
So, in the case of Melanie, do you go through a few different papers, and how do you arrive with the cotton rag?
For the canvas was pretty, straightforward. In the end, we used the Ilford Galicia canvas. We knew that they needed to be matte, have a little bit of texture, so it was a no-brainer really for this one.
And I was guided by Tommy for it, really. Like, yes, there's consultation and he does involve me in the whole process. But at the end of the day, he's the expert.
He is the expert indeed. And Tommy, are you going to stick with the same media for Melanie's works? Do you envisage changing that in the future?
That's up to Melanie. Up to you.
It's a work in progress.
But I think you're quite happy with what how they're turning out.
Very happy.
Yeah.
And Tommy, we often talk about size. I know you print up to some very large scales. Ilford Media goes up to a 64-inch
64-inch
size,
right, yeah.
which is quite unique in the media world.
Yeah.
How big are you going with Melanie's work? I see some very blown up parts of the images, but how big are some of the artworks you're creating?
I mean, this one, for example, I did 1400 by 2150 millimeters. So it's a decent size on your wall, especially if they're portrait size. It'll reach your roof or your ceiling in most cases.
That's what we like to see. Print it large,
Yeah.
print it big, capture everyone's attention.
I actually had side note, I had a client recently asking for a massive print to be done at 2100, and we're just measuring his wall, and it's 2160.
Oh, wow.
Right, so they're only giving about 3 centimeters of gap between the frame
Oh, but how
and
magnificent
the
will it
floor
look, though?
and the ceiling. Yeah,
Because you feel like the joy in having such a big piece is you're part of it. That's why I love working large, because you feel like you're part of the artworks.
yeah,
Great.
Yeah, it's great for a feature wall. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
At Ilford, we are a fan of the very big prints.
Absolutely,
So we
yeah.
encourage people to print and print big.
Yeah, that's right.
So Melanie, do you have a gallery coming up, or what's on the horizon for you?
Well, the next step beyond this was to do my children's book. So I wrote and illustrated a children's book recently. So I've been funneling all my energy into that, but I've just refocused into the art side. So I've just started a new collection. So the world is my oyster. We'll
What
see where
is
it
the
goes.
children's book called?
It's called Little Lionheart.
Little Lionheart.
Little Lionheart.
A nice name. And you've done the illustration for the book as well?
Yeah, I had to dive into the whole digital world to learn how to illustrate on my laptop, and so that was a whole new ball game. But
Are
yeah.
you also going to do some print reproductions of the illustrations from
I've
that
been
book?
considering that. I think I should do that. Yeah.
Using the same media, or are you looking to change that up?
I'll be talking to Tommy about that.
Yeah,
Something to look out for.
absolutely.
And when you do a gallery,
Yep.
do you get that gallery printed and reproduced, or are you displaying the original work that you create?
When I do an exhibition. So generally if it's a solo, I'll have original artworks on the walls, but then there's always, the last few I've done, there's always been a portion of that is prints. So just as I said, it's really great to be able to dive back into that back catalogue and show some of my, because this piece, the Alice in Wonderland piece, that's been sold quite a long time ago, but I love the piece. So yeah, that gives
That
me
one's
opportunity.
great. I think it's my favourite on the table too, the Alice in Wonderland one.
And that's the beauty of prints. It's never gone now.
So what advice would you give to aspiring artists about printing and reproducing their works?
I think it's really important to have a catalogue, because once they go, they go. So, you work really hard on artworks. It takes me weeks and weeks to do one piece. And so do an exhibition is like a year's work. So when you're thinking of it in those terms, you have to think ahead about what you're going to do beyond if those artworks sell. I think limited edition prints are a perfect way to keep it going and keep your art relevant. And some of these pieces are quite old, but I still have them with me, which is really beautiful.
That is nice. That is nice. It speaks to the value of the reproduction. Guys, great discussion today. Thank you very much for being with us. Tommy, if anyone is interested in getting their works reproduced or looking into the world of fine art printing,
Just get in touch. Absolutely. Yeah.
Fine Art Printing by Tom.
Thanks for having us. Hey.
And Melanie J. Melanie, thanks so much for coming in and sharing your creative process, some of your artwork, and also your exciting new project of the children's book. We look forward to seeing more of your work and staying in touch.
My pleasure to be here.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button, and see you all soon.